Okay, this is a video for Mr. Mac. So I decided to go ahead and set up a little test jig to show what we were talking about with LEDs yesterday. So here's what we've got. I've got my breadboard set up and I'm pumping in 4.74 volts. So I've got a variable power supply up there and it is coming down into the positive and negative rails here. Now, you mentioned you had a breadboard and you didn't know how they work. Let me explain real quick. So I've got all these jumpered across. The way these breadboards work generally is you put like positive and negative across lengthwise here. So what I've done is put positive across. These groups of 5 are all together, and you'll see between some of them I put little jumpers to connect them. So basically I have a positive rail across the top, a negative rail across the bottom. Now these groups of 5 over here are connected this way. So if I plug something into the upper hole, then the 4 holes below it are all interconnected. The 2 sides are not interconnected. So that's how it works. So as you see, I have positive and negative all the way across the bottom, and there are my probes for my multimeter. So coming out of my variable power supply, I have 4.8 volts. So what I did is I took a brand new battery and just stuck it on the multimeter, a brand new one of those little button batteries, 1.5 volts, and it read about 1.6 volts brand new. So if we had 3 of them, that would be about 4.8. So actually this is a little high. I'm just going to go ahead and turn this down a little bit, and maybe we'll say 4.6. So there's or 4.55, sure. So those are still pretty good batteries. They're still fresh, not worn out yet. So that gives us a good idea of how bright the bulbs are going to be. Now, also wired through my power supply, I actually have it jumpered through my digital multimeter up there. And what this multimeter is telling us is that this bulb, the way it's set up right now, is using 6.6 milliamps. So let me explain how this is wired. My power comes through here, and this power is already passing through my multimeter up there that's showing the 6.6 milliamps. So the positive comes across the top. I go into the top end, the positive side of the LED here. The bottom side of the LED is in this row here, which goes to the center of this potentiometer. The left wiper of that potentiometer is not connected to anything. The right wiper is in this row, and I just jumpered that row down to ground. So you have positive to LED to potentiometer to ground. So as I turn this potentiometer, surprise, surprise, it changes the brightness of the bulb. So I just kind of fooled around with it. You know, if I turn it way down low, it's really dim. If I turn it way up high, it gets crazy bright. And I think that's probably up there is brighter than you'd want it. But I'm guessing somewhere around there is probably what you want for nighttime operation. So what I did is I also set up my multimeter so that I can measure how much resistance we have here. So what I want to do now is measure how much resistance we have going through this LED as it's drawing. Now I just tweaked it. It's drawing 7 milliamps, and these are rated for 20 milliamps at I think 2 volts. So it's drawing 7 milliamps. So what we're going to do is I'm going to disconnect the power so I don't blow anything up with my multimeter. I'm going to switch my multimeter over to ohms. So now I'm reading ohms across these 2 rails, and we see that this bottom rail goes into the potentiometer. So what I'm going to do is just jumper the top of the potentiometer around the LED into that top rail. So center pin, no really, center pin goes into top rail. Trying to work in the camera here. Alright, so having done that, my meter is measuring, and it's saying 436 or 0.436 k ohms, so that's 436 ohms. So I have 436 ohms of resistance to make that LED about as bright as I thought it should be. Alright, so I'm going to take the jumper back out and show you the other thing I did here. So I'm going to put this back to volts. I'm going to plug my power supply back in to find my wire. Alright, so we have magic light again. Alright, so what I did is I knew this was going to be around 400, 500, 600 ohms or something. So I actually pulled out an assortment of resistors. And so the 2 regular resistors I grabbed were 330 ohm and 680 ohm resistors. So what I wanted to do is do a comparison if I just put a 330 ohm resistor on this second LED to compare it to the first one. So here's a 330 ohm resistor, and you see wired the same way. Positive goes into LED, LED goes into this row, bottom of this row goes into resistor, resistor goes into ground. Hook it up. Once I get it in there, Kind of hard to work looking through the camera. There we go. So looking at these two, that is a little bit brighter. The left one's a little brighter because it's at 330 ohms. And I think, what did we say it was? 400 some odd ohms I had measured, or 500? I don't remember anymore. So 330 ohms, a little bit brighter. So I have sitting over here a 680 ohm resistor. So let me pull this one out and put in the 680. Jumper, jumper, jumper. Now as we look at them, it's kind of hard to tell here, but I can tell you in person, the left one is now a little bit dimmer. So somewhere probably between 200 to 700 ohms. It's probably going to make you the brightness you want. It's kind of hard to tell because I need lights on to film this for you. So what I've done, I'm going to send you a couple of different selections of resistors. I'm going to send you those two LEDs because I got a bunch. I'm going to send you a couple selections of resistors. And also, if you can't make these resistors fit in your device there, and that's pretty small, but if you can't make it fit, I'm also going to send you a bunch of surface mount resistors, which are in these little paper packs. And I set one out on my bench, and they are so freaking small, I think I've lost it already. I'm like looking around to try to find it. Let me show you what one of these looks like. So I'm going to flip it up. Each of these little squares is a resistor, and you can see, compared to my hand, how, come on, focus, how small those little resistor guys are. So, you know, one end and the other, you see the shiny top and bottom are the resistor. So if you need to use the super tiny guys, you can. All you need to do is like slice a trace and solder it on either side with that foil you mentioned. So I'll give you an assortment here of 220, 330, 470, 1K. That's what I had in my junk box. So I'll just send you those. And I'll grab you, I think I've got some 220s and I've got a few more in here. So I'll throw those in. These are all just, I have piles of this in my junk box. It all adds up to maybe 30 cents, so who cares? And I'll stick all those in an envelope to you. And that should get you started to play. So have fun and enjoy.